This week on Quality Digest Live, we talk to Jeff Bernstein, president of the Association for Advancing Automation, otherwise known as A3, about automation and also the impact of automation on manufacturers and the workforce. So stick around. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to Quality Digest Live. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, editor-in-chief of Quality Digest. And joining us today is Jeff Bernstein, president of A3, that's the Association for Advancing Automation. And for those of you who aren't familiar with A3, it's the umbrella association for several other organizations, the Robotic Industries Association, the RIA, Advancing Vision and Imaging, which is the AIA, Motion Control and Motor Association, the MCMA, and also A3 Mexico. Now, those four organizations, RIA, AIA, MCMA, and A3 Mexico, combined represent over 1,200 automation manufacturers and component suppliers, system integrators and users, research groups and consulting firms from throughout the world that are driving automation forward. So in other words, A3 is really at the forefront of manufacturing automation. Jeff Bernstein, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so for those of us who work in manufacturing, we know that automation of all types have come a long way. So, you know, everything from, you know, in the early days, let's say just CNCs, but from there, you know, onto robotics, AI, Internet of Things, additive manufacturing, the list just goes on. What kind of impact has automation had, I guess, both on manufacturers, but also maybe even for consumers?
Well, I think we can start with consumers. I mean, it's helped drive down the price of many of the consumer electronics products that we have. It's improved the quality. It's allowed them to get to our homes quicker because, you know, automation is a key ingredient in allowing companies to meet the needs of their customers. And, you know, customer tastes change quickly. So you can retool with automation because it's more flexible than traditional manufacturing methods were. In terms of the impact it's had on manufacturing companies, it's been enormous. I mean, when I got involved in this industry over 35 years ago, people thought that robots and automation were only for big companies, that you had to be General Motors or you had to be Boeing or someone like that. But now, small and medium-sized companies are finding ways to successfully apply automation to become stronger global competitors.
And is that because the cost of automation has come down, so smaller companies can make use of it, maybe whereas in the past they weren't able to?
The cost, the complexity, it's much easier to use now. It's much easier to get equipment up and running faster. Improved system integrator networks, a lot more experience with the technology. So I really feel like it's transforming manufacturing.
So when I mentioned right at the intro here several different types of automation, I think most people, when you say automation, they automatically think robotics, but there's a lot more going on, particularly recently. A lot more, it seems like every month some sort of new type of technology comes out that it really would fall under the umbrella of automation. What has been the most surprising growth technology that you've seen over the last few years?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a growth technology. I mean, we've been talking about things like artificial intelligence since I got involved in this. But certainly machines are getting smarter. Machine learning is having a major impact. 3D printing, another technology that's been around forever. It was rapid simulation. But now that's having a big impact. And even in robotics, it's changing. So when industrial robots were first introduced, you had to keep them away from people. You had to put them behind fences. Now you have collaborative robots that can work side by side with people. So that's having a big impact as well.
And what about integration of technologies? So again, It's been a while since I've actually worked in manufacturing, but it seemed like the technologies were somewhat siloed. So you might have a robot that did some sort of assembly process. It might be a welding robot, or it might be a painting robot, but it wasn't really integrated with the rest of the system. So what kind of integration are we seeing that ties all these various types of automation together?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, what customers want are solutions. They don't want just technologies. And so we've been fortunate in the United States to have a great group of qualified system integrators. In fact, it's one of the reasons that we launched our Certified Robot Integrator program, because I think companies looking for solutions want to work with people who have got a great track record and are meeting industry best practices to tie all these technologies together to make the workplace more efficient, lower cost, and more competitive.
Okay. Now, changing gears here just a little bit. Again, those of us who've worked in manufacturing, we've seen the benefits, as you've mentioned, of automation in terms of higher productivity, more consistent manufacturing processes, because automation does things pretty much the same way every time, so you get better consistency. Usually that leads to better quality. So again, from the customer's point of view, automation has probably both improved quality, and I would assume also driven costs down. But has all this come at the expense of jobs? And I'm sure that's probably something, talking to your friends, that's probably something that you get quite a bit, is like, automation is taking away jobs. Is that really the case?
No, we don't think so. I mean, it's changing jobs, that some of the tasks that people used to do, machines are doing now. But in many cases, those are the dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks that people don't want to do anyway. When it comes to jobs, we believe that the real threat to jobs is when companies can no longer compete, because then all the jobs go away. I mean, I live near Detroit, and Detroit's manufacturing community was hollowed out when jobs were shipped to China and elsewhere, chasing low-cost labor. As a result, it wasn't only the jobs inside the factories that were impacted, but it was the jobs in the community, in restaurants and bars and dry cleaners and every place else. So, our belief is that as companies become more competitive, they create new opportunities for jobs. And in the case of robots, we think robots are saving and creating jobs, and we think the numbers support that.
So what kind of transition is that, though? I mean, you mentioned, or you alluded to, I think, that maybe the jobs are changing, but initially, certainly, a company may bring in some sort of automation, whether it's robotics or whatever, and initially, I'm assuming that's going to displace some workers. Are those workers generally retrained at the company, or do they basically lose their job and then maybe retrained on their own through various community programs and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we look at it a little bit differently. We think even on the initial installation of automation and robotics, you might be saving the company. So instead of having to send all the jobs elsewhere, as I said, in many cases, jobs were sent to China. You have an opportunity to win new business and ultimately grow employment. We have so many great examples of this. There are companies on the west side of the state of Michigan, like Vickers Engineering. They used to say just what you said, explain why we ought to bring in robots, it's going to have a negative impact. Then they realized it improved the quality, it lowered the turnover because you had people doing those dull, dirty, and dangerous jobs that they didn't want to do. It was hurting productivity. It was hurting quality. As they brought in automation and lowered their costs, they were able to win new business that they couldn't have won otherwise. In their case, it was from Toyota. And as a result, even as they've increased the use of technology and automation and robotics, they've grown headcount. And we think that's the more likely case that we've seen. And not just in big companies, as I said, small and medium-sized companies as well.
And is most automation, are most automation products, let me ask this another way maybe, what percentage of automation products are produced in the United States as opposed to produced from European companies or Chinese companies or so forth?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So if you look at robot arms, very few are produced in the United States. Some, but very few. Most of them come from Europe or Asia. But as you mentioned earlier, the key to the success of an application is the integration. And we have tremendous integrators in the United States. And the technologies that they're employing could be, in addition to the robot arm, which is coming from somewhere else, you could have the gripping system, which is produced in the United States. You could have conveyors. You could have all sorts of technologies, vision systems that are made in the United States and integrated into a successful system.
And is the given the current tariff issue, is this that these robotic pieces and components or entire systems are currently largely produced outside the United States? Is the current tariff situation having an impact on the industry?
Well, it's not helping. We'd like to see the tariff situation resolved soon. We understand the need to make sure that there's a level playing field and to make sure that intellectual property is protected. So we support the administration's efforts in those areas. But certainly the sooner this is resolved, the better it will be for everyone, I believe.
Okay. So let's change it a little bit now to, let's talk about education. This is a topic that we talk about quite a bit on our show, about getting our youth interested in manufacturing and technology and bringing them up to speed so that they can plug into kind of today's modern manufacturing workforce, which does use a lot of really, really cool high-tech products, and kind of getting away from this idea of manufacturing as this grubby, dirty, get your fingernails, spinning lug nuts onto tires kind of job. What does your organization and your sister organizations, how do they help promote this concept, this idea of manufacturing as really a high-tech, interesting field to go into?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many people who have these negative perceptions about manufacturing based from decades ago. But like you said, most of these environments are clean and exciting and opportunity to work with cool technologies. So that's an effort that organizations like ours around the world really are engaged in, to try and excite students to get involved in manufacturing. One of the best ways, actually, has been the FIRST Robotics program. That really has excited a lot of high school students and younger to get involved and learn about automation. There's all sorts of STEM education programs, and we need to foster more of those. So we're a big proponent of that. But it's not easy, because those perceptions die hard, and you need to get people inside those factories to see what the opportunities are and how you don't have to use your brawn anymore. A lot of these jobs allow you to use your brains to work with the machines and the robots. So it's an exciting time to be working in manufacturing, but that message is being mentioned by a lot of organizations, not just ours.
Well, what was the first, you mentioned a program, FIRST Robotics?
Yeah, FIRST Robotics. So Dean Kamen launched that several years ago, and it's a big international activity with students competing in these competitions are unbelievable. I think they did the national championship in Detroit and in Houston, and they sell out these arenas to see these kids competing in tasks that are assigned each year using robotics technology. It's a great way to get students excited and motivated. Now the challenge is, once they've competed in this, is to get them involved in manufacturing, because a lot of them want to go on and do something else. They want to work in, Google or Facebook or Apple or something like that. So we need them in manufacturing.
And are manufacturers, are they actively involved in promoting manufacturing? And I think in terms of whether it's equipment donations or mentoring or that type of stuff, where the manufacturers themselves are going out into the community, into the schools, in order to generate that kind of at the grassroots level.
Yeah, absolutely. More and more manufacturers are doing that because they realize, the biggest challenge that all of our members face, I mentioned that we have about 1,200 member companies, they all face a challenge in getting people. And that's one of the barriers to further growth of automation, frankly. we need people with hands-on skills, can be application engineers, maintain the equipment, design it, install it. And in order to do that, we have an aging population. So where are we going to find these people? We have to get students excited. We have to retrain the current workforce to take the jobs of the future. And it's an effort that everyone's got to be a part of, including our manufacturer members, and they're fully aware of that.
All right. Well, you know, you have a, I don't want to leave here without giving you a chance to kind of plug your big show that is coming up. That's Automate 2019 at McCormick Center in Chicago, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that for those who haven't been to the show. What would they see?
Well, what they'll see is the widest range of automation solutions that they're going to see anywhere in North America. Robotics, machine vision, motion control, AI, all these exciting technologies. More than 450 companies will exhibit. But again, the focus is on solutions. So right at the front of the show, they'll see great system integrators showcasing how you can put these technologies into a successful solution that's going to solve the problems of, as I said, small, medium, and large companies. So it's a great event. It's terrific displays, great training. We have a 5-day conference that more than 1,000 people will attend. We also have free sessions on the show floor. I really encourage people to come if you can. We're going to focus on jobs on throughout the show with our Automation Works slogan, and you'll see companies saying we're hiring because just about everybody's hiring. So it's a great time to get involved in this technology, and Automate is the show to go to, and that's April 8th through 11th.
I was just going to say, I believe, yeah, April 8th through 11th, and we'll include a link underneath our player here so that people can. I think it's the I have it written down here. AutomateShow.com.
AutomateShow.com. That's it.
All right. Well, terrific. Well, Jeff Bernstein, thanks for joining us talk a little bit about automation, what people can expect to see at the show as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Well, that was Jeff Bernstein, president of A3. Don't forget, as he was just saying, Automate 2019 is coming up April 8th through April 11th at McCormick Place in Chicago, so be sure to check that out. Again, that's the www.automateshow.com. So that is it for today's Quality Digest Live. As usual, if you have some ideas of who or what you would like to see on the show, send those to us at qdl@qualitydigest.com, and we will try to get those people or things onto the show. So that is it for today. So long. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.